You are about to enter the world of urban legends, where fact is often stranger than fiction. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between truth and urban legend. You are now entering the world of urban legends, where you'll see 3 stories. 2 of them are myths, but one story is true. Can you tell which is which? First, an urban legend that's hard to swallow. Eating a small exotic fish as a joke ends up being no laughing matter. Copycat. The lives of a cat and its owner are inextricably linked in sickness and in health. And an unlucky cat stuck in a tree and in need of a rescue from, of all things, the rescuers. 3 stories, only one is true. Can you sleuth the truth? We'll tell you if you're right at the end of the show. First up, a fishy tale. April 24th, 2004. Folsom State Prison, Sacramento, California. After 8 years in prison for armed robbery, Jack DeMiguel is released. Looking forward to this day is his girlfriend, Mae Brown.
Jack's always gotten into trouble. Guns, drugs, gangs. He's done a lot. He wasn't a good boy, but when you love somebody, you love somebody, so.
His release is a reunion with his fellow bad boy best friend. Meet Dwayne Charuto.
About that? Yeah? One night we were drinking a little too much and went into the 7-Eleven and we decided to rob the place. We got away with big fat $111. Cost us 8 years each in jail. The second he got out of there, man, we knew we were just gonna go back to partying and drinking just like before.
Jack, his girlfriend Mae, and his best buddy Dwayne are together again. Jack is determined to make up for lost time.
Just wanted to go out and celebrate, really.
Yeah! On his first night of freedom, Jack picks up right where he left off. Downing beer after beer after beer. Jack, Mae, and Dwayne decide it's time to eat. Their choice, a sushi restaurant. Jack DeMiguel doesn't know that this is to be the last meal of a condemned man.
Can we get another? Can we get another round?
Out of nowhere, Jackie starts mouthing off to this guy, our waiter.
Bartender, upkeep, beer. Garçon!
Boy, he was carrying on like he usually did. He was just joking though, but you know, some people, they just can't take a joke. They don't understand Jackie boy sometimes.
Hey, food! Hey, phone!
For the restaurant's waitstaff, Jack's loud outbursts are becoming hard to ignore, especially when he begins to complain about the food.
He wasn't too happy, man. I think they messed up. Must have been week old fish they had just laying out in the back somewhere. I guess, you know, we didn't look like the type who would eat at a place like that, and I guess they didn't think we'd know the difference, so got a little ugly after that. He was yelling at the waiter, "You call this fresh fish?"
I feel fresh. You want to see fresh? I'll show you fresh fish.
So they had this big aquarium at the front with all these tropical fish. He grabbed a big old goldfish right out of it, just scooped it out with his hand like a bear by a river, you know?
His next move, as well as being cruel, is also very stupid. Jack doesn't realize that his catch of the day isn't a goldfish.
Right here.
And everybody in the restaurant was looking at this point. Some people were laughing, some just looked real shocked. And he picked that fish up, he swallowed it whole.
And with that, Jack seals his fate. He downs a porcupine pufferfish known as the Japanese fugu. Its flesh is much prized in sushi, but its liver and skin are highly poisonous. They contain a neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin. It causes muscle paralysis and eventually asphyxiation. There is no known antidote for this poison. Complicating things for Jack is the fact that the fish has lived up to its name. When agitated, the pufferfish instantly puffs up to 5 times its normal size, in this case, fatally blocking Jack's windpipe.
Jackie, he started grabbing his throat like this, and he was choking and convulsing. He was on the ground, shaking. We didn't react in time, and less than a minute later, Jackie was gone.
So, did Jack die from eating the poisonous pufferfish? Is this a true story? Don't decide just yet, because we have 2 more stories for you to consider. In the meantime, consider this mini-myth. Mini-myth number 86, the attack goat. 77-year-old Carl Hulsey from Canton, Georgia, couldn't afford to buy a dog to guard his property, so he decided to train his pet goat Snowball to do the job instead. Halsey taunted Snowball and beat him to teach the goat to be mean and attack intruders. But one day Snowball got his revenge. When his owner approached with a stick, he butted the man over the edge of a porch, killing him instantly. Did Snowball really kill his owner Carl by butting him off a porch? True story? Or are you just the butt of a good joke? Actually, it did happen. It was no joke, especially for Carl. Snowball was saved from a death sentence. An animal rights group pleaded on his behalf, and Snowball now lives on a goat sanctuary. On Urban Legends, you'll see 3 stories. 2 are myths, and 1 actually happened. So far, you've seen the story of a man who died after eating a poisonous pufferfish. Was that true? Don't decide until you've seen all 3 stories, including this next one about the copycat. This story of an unusually strong bond between a cat and his owner began in 1993, a relationship that astounds even the most skeptical. Meet Sarah Walker and her cat, Ebony.
I like the look of him. Just wanted to hug him and, like, my baby. You know, it's just like, where you been all my life?
Sarah and Ebony live in perfect harmony, and all is well until Sarah falls ill.
Yeah, I first realised that something was up when I used to fall asleep all the time. I had blood tests and stuff. They eventually found out that I had an underactive thyroid gland.
Thyroid problems can cause extreme fatigue and sometimes loss of hair. During her treatment, Sarah notices Ebony showing similar symptoms to hers.
He started to get quite, I don't know, a little bit slow, not quite himself. And he started losing fur and stuff like that. And then I realised that something was up with him.
Sarah takes Ebony to the vet. A blood test reveals that Ebony has also developed a hormonal imbalance. It's a strange coincidence, but it's after a traffic accident that Sarah is sure something weird is going on.
When I had the motorbike accident, I mainly landed on my right leg and tore all the ligaments and tendons away from the bone.
Although it isn't broken, Sarah's right leg ends up in a cast. But while she is recovering, Ebony too suffers a similar fate. No one witnesses an accident, but Ebony exhibits symptoms similar to being hit by a car. Meet Ebony's veterinarian, Dr. James Hill.
The damage to Ebony's leg was mainly to the hindquarters, to the muscles, tendons and ligaments. The bones on the x-rays were intact.
Ebony and Sarah damaged ligaments but didn't break any bones. Sarah's leg heals, but Ebony loses the use of his leg, and it's determined that it has to be amputated. Two shocking coincidences. Could it be true? Can a caring cat become a copycat? Meet animal communicator Joanne Hall.
When you have an animal that's got a very, very strong bond, especially a domesticated animal, what normally happens, they feel it's their duty to take on whatever the owner has. So they almost mirror their symptoms, but sometimes in rare cases, they'll actually develop a full-blown illness or disease that the humans have. You could have so many cats or dogs in the house, but only one will take the illnesses off the person because they're the most bonded to the people.
Ebony suffers a hormonal problem similar but worse than Sarah's. They both suffer traffic accidents, but Ebony faces a more devastating outcome. But this is not the end to the uncanny similarities between feline and human.
I started getting toothache. It was just getting too bad to tolerate. Went to the dentist and found out that they were growing at the wrong angle in my mouth.
So Sarah has her wisdom teeth removed. And then it's the cat's turn.
About a couple of months after I had my teeth done, I noticed that Ebony's breath was getting a bit worse for wear. And when he yawned, you could see that his gums were getting very inflamed.
Ebony has gum disease, and over the course of a year, the vet removes all but 4 of his teeth.
Unfortunately, his mouth remained a problem, and he had to come back a year later and have even more dental work done, involving more extractions and more cleaning up and more antibiotics. And generally, he was fairly unhappy at that stage about his mouth.
Ebony recovers, but the situation gets worse. Sarah is now confronted by an eye problem, cataracts.
I was born with a cataract, so I've always had eye problems. They did say later in life I would need a cataract operation.
Sarah is scheduled for the operation, but the question is, would Ebony develop a similar medical problem?
He developed a small ulcer, which is damage to the cornea itself, and despite treatment, that ulcer refused to heal.
Ebony's eye cannot be saved. Since her operation, Sarah is enjoying good health, and even though Ebony has been rapidly using up his 9 lives, he's been stable as well. Can this story of the copycat be true? Can an animal and a human create an extraordinary bond this deep? True or false? Find out at the end of the show. Meanwhile, here's a mini-myth to consider. Mini-myth number 63, the pooch paint puddle puzzle. A fresh coat of paint was being applied to the living room of a mansion in the Hamptons when a can of paint was accidentally knocked over onto an expensive antique Chinese rug. It was bad timing as the mistress of the house was about to inspect the work in progress. Fearing being fired from the job and being slapped with a lawsuit, the painter had to think fast. The owner's yappy little dog came into the room first. He quickly picked him up and threw him in the paint puddle, shouting, "Bad dog, look what you've done." The owner enters the room and right away blames the dog for the mishap and not the painter. Did this happen? Was this pooch in a paint story true or false? It's false. Stories about blaming mishaps on animals, especially spilled paint, have been around since the 1920s. On Urban Legends, we show you 3 remarkable stories. One actually happened, but the other 2 are pure bunk. You be the judge. Is it the story of the poisonous pufferfish exacting revenge after it was devoured by the ex-con? Could it be the copycat, whose very life seemed linked to its owners? Or is it our 3rd and final story, the cat that runs out of lives? London, England, 1977. A landmark year. Punk rock explodes. The Queen celebrates 25 years on the throne. And a young girl is about to witness an urban legend in the making. Meet Tammy Jones today as she recounts the story from her childhood.
Oh, he was my pride and joy. He was everything to me. When I used to come home from school, the first thing I wanted to do was play with Gareth.
The love of Tammy's life, a ginger tomcat. Meet Gareth.
He was just so cuddly and loving, and he was just adorable.
But not to everyone. Meet Tammy's former neighbor, Edith Paris.
Yes, I remember Gareth. Always going into people's gardens and weeing everywhere. And then he got bold, started going in their houses.
Gareth the cat finds his way into Edith Paris's house, much to her disapproval. She wants the cat out.
Rushing around the room after him, and he was scampering around, and I was hitting him with a newspaper, and he leapt out the front window.
Chastised and beaten by Mrs. Paris, the frightened feline Gareth seeks refuge and makes his escape to the front yard.
Gareth would always come in for his morning feed by usually 1 o'clock the latest. And he hadn't turned up that day. And that was just really unusual. That was not like him at all.
The worried young Tammy begins to search for her beloved pet, and it isn't long before she finds him. For Tammy, who fears for the life of her furry friend, it's a nightmare.
That's when I ran back to Mum and said, Mum, Gareth stuck up the tree.
Help is needed to rescue the cat. Meet firefighter Alan Tyne, 30-year veteran, but back then, a new recruit.
Got a call. Pretty much like the day, normal day, been a bit slack. Cat stuck up a tree.
So the next thing that happened, this big red fire engine turned up, a big burly fireman in it. It was quite thrilling, really.
Arrived at the scene, and they tried everything, cooling it, food, all sorts of stuff.
It all seems routine, all in a day's work, but Alan is in for a nasty shock.
Got the ladder up to the bow, cat's on the end of the bow. I went straight up the ladder. This is going to be easy.
The cat was scratching him, really going for him.
Cat, it should have been left up there, vicious.
And he was covered in blood. Poor thing, he was in such a mess.
It went from my face, it was in my hair. A lot of people standing around. I was going to get the mickey taken out of me anyway, being the youngest, so I kept going.
Alan's pride is at stake. He can't fail. And after a 30-minute fight, the situation is under control. A heroic Alan wins the respect of his colleagues, and he safely returns Gareth to his young owner, who isn't exactly grateful.
Give Gareth to me or hurt him.
There you go.
Gave the cat to Tammy. But was she grateful? No.
I've come out of some fires with some bruises, but I was scarred for months. I'd rather go to a fire than a cat.
Job done. The cat is safe. The story should end there, but in true urban legend style, it goes on. Several fateful moments too long.
Don't worry, Gareth, that nasty man will leave you alone now.
Felt a bit of a bump.
The fire engine hit him.
He ran right over the cat.
1 minute I was up in arms with joy, the next minute I was absolutely in tears, I remember.
Absolutely tragic. I think they were the very words I used at the time.
Well, I had quite a few cats after that. None of them were like Gareth. He was my special little baby. You know, he was my first pet and always will be.
So, did you believe the tragic tale of cuddly loving Gareth the cat? Run over by the very people sent to rescue him? Did it happen? While you're thinking about that poor cat, think about the poor dog in this mini-myth. Mini-myth number 4. Fetch, boy, fetch. A guy going out on a blind date is invited to the girl's apartment to wait while she gets ready. She has a pet dog terrier that she was clearly devoted to. The guy plays ball in the living room with the dog while she applies makeup in the bathroom. The ball play gets lively. The ball bounces out of the apartment window and the dog follows. Unfortunately, her apartment was on the 15th floor. The girl came into the room wondering where her dog had gone. Her date didn't say a thing. So is it true or false? Of course it's not true. If it's vaguely familiar, no wonder. It's been used in movies, commercials, and comedy shows, but there is no documented evidence of it ever happening for real. You've had time to decide which one of our 3 stories is true, and it's time to find out if you're right. Was it the one about the man who died after eating a puffer fish? Or could it have been the sick copycat? What about the story of the cat up a tree, then run over by the rescuer's vehicle? Cats are accidentally killed on roads every day, but not Gareth. This story is false. And he certainly didn't die at the hands of the fire crew who had just saved him. The story has been around since the 60s in various places in the United States. It even surfaced in England in the late 70s, but there has never been a confirmation of it actually happening. 1 down, 2 to go. Copycat kitty or killer sushi? Well, if you went for the fish, you'd be absolutely wrong. Make no mistake, the fugu fish is poisonous and must be carefully prepared to make it edible. But Jack didn't die from it. Once the puffer fish had been taken out of the tank, it would have puffed up in a panic, making it impossible to swallow, just like this story. That leaves the incredible and unexplainable coincidences of Ebony the copycat. This story is totally true. Yes, Sarah Walker did suffer through various mishaps and ill health, and her cat Ebony really did suffer similar circumstances. Ebony, however, had more serious outcomes, having his leg, teeth, and 1 eye removed.
There is a very surprising link between them, but I can't tell you why that link is there, but I do observe that it is there, and it is very surprising.
It's made Sarah worried about the future.
Yeah, I'm a bit cautious now, but it is in the back of my mind with the things I do and stuff in case Ebony do his copycat routine again.
So, did you believe the copycat's story? Well, if you need more practice in figuring out the truth from fiction, we'll have 3 more stories for you on the next Urban Legends.